The instructor remarked, "Gee, Paul, is there something about you that we don't know?"
So close to getting it.
Why, hello. I'm Sister Babushka,
And I'm Sister Lascalot.
and this is Utter Nunsense.
This is the show where we pour a cup of tea
And utter whatever nonsense pops into our heads.
This is basically a laid-back chat between very good friends.
And a new episode is uploaded once a month at the start of the month.
Along with plenty of delicious bites of nonsense in between.
Just stuffing you full of nonsense every month.
Every month.
The fabulous month of November holds a very special date to us as sisters, which is the Trans Day of Remembrance.
When we focus on people who've lost their lives through violence due to transphobia.
We once again wanted to shine a little bit of a spotlight on our trans siblings.
And we've decided to do this by balancing the sadness that it is Trans Day of Remembrance. And instead, we're going to focus on some positive trans stories of the trans experience.
And of course, we have done this using our good old friend, the internet. And of course, our favourite place to troll along for content for our episodes, Reddit.
Oh, we do love Reddit. The juicy bits.
They want our juices and we want to give them the juices.
Nice and juicy with a big caboosey.
There you go, that's the tagline for the show. Our first story that we have to make you smile. A few months ago, my partner and I saw this funny handshake thing where a couple fist bump and then they go in for another, but the girl turns her hand into making an O, and the guy points out his index finger, and they slide into one another.
Romantic.
So, my cis male partner and I did this for lols. I subconsciously also stuck out my finger instead of making an O, and so we touched tips. Then he shouted out, "Haha, you are a dude." And sometimes I still get euphoria from that.
It's really silly, but in a way it's also kind of sweet.
I think it's just one of those things, isn't it? Where you've got those silly little things that you do with your partner that are corny, cheesy, completely ridiculous. And if anyone else was reading it, you're like, ha 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 ha. But yeah, they have that sentimental and joyous value to that person. And that's what matters.
They had a moment.
Touching the tips.
Had a couple goals.
Why can't you be like that, Joan?
She's not the one giving you the side eye.
Poor Diana.
Well, that was a delightful little story to get us started. Shall we have another? On to story number 2. This one says, I came out to one of my oldest and closest friends as transgender. Told him that I was using a femme name and she, her pronouns. He listened quietly, but encouragingly, and let me finish, and then said, well, you know, I'm always there for you, man. And then he immediately face palmed. Even better, apparently this person's brother had done exactly the same thing. And they just burst out laughing and enjoyed the hilarity of the moment together.
That's very amusing. I love that they're able to laugh about it because it's a simple, easy mistake, especially within seconds of hearing.
It's like their friend was trying so hard to be supportive, but just didn't think. Like the words just came out of the mouth of course I support you, man. And then they're like, no.
I suppose if you've had several years saying, yo, bro, yeah, dude, you got it, man. It is a bit of a switch within 5 seconds to suddenly go, yeah, I'm there for you, girl.
We love supportive allies.
Yay, supportive people in that person's life, even if there's always going to be a clumsy mistake here or there, but the intention is there to support, and that's the main thing. And it's really lovely that, yeah, there is that support around that person. And they can laugh about these silly mistakes when and if they happen.
A nice hug.
You still can't have the A in LGBTQIA+.
I'm sorry, but you're cheering us on. You're not in the game.
We're the team playing, you're on the benches, you just cheer. Another little joyous story we've got. I was attending a public speaking class a few years back, and we each had to give a presentation. One young woman gave a presentation about makeup. I asked a bunch of questions that typically only a woman would ask, and the instructor remarked, "Gee, Paul, is there something about you that we don't know?"
So close to getting it.
Later on, I was hanging around after class, and she brought up the subject about makeup again, and I decided, what the heck, and came out to her.
Hey.
I showed her a bunch of pictures on my phone, and she was very supportive. She encouraged me to do my presentation on transgender persons as Paula. The next day, I did, and it was one of the most rewarding things I have ever done.
How nice that they were able to, they just felt it was the right time to come out, and they were supported in that moment. And actually were given the courage to go on and do a presentation, which is scary enough on its own, but do it as themselves, as Paula.
I think obviously it helps to show that when you have those positive interactions with people, it builds up that sense of trust. So the fact that they were able to ask those questions about the presentation and weren't just dismissed because of somebody perceiving or presuming what their gender was, but instead just being open to that dialogue, it basically laid that groundwork for that person to feel comfortable coming to them and being honest about who they are with them, which is really lovely.
I would love to know what the other colleague thought. Because they were so close to getting it the day before, but clearly just didn't quite make the connection. And then the next day, presumably, because they're at the same event, they saw the presentation as Paula.
It's weird. Paul still hasn't shown up for the presentation today. Where is he?
I'd like to think they were sitting there going, this presenter looks awfully familiar, you know? Oh, well done, Paula. Fantastic. Moving on to our next story. Story time. This one says, I'm FTM. I was ringing up some customers with a little kid, and their kid asked me why I had a girl voice if I was handsome. I just laughed. I barely pass in public, but this little 4 or 5-year-old made my entire day. I still think about it. It was just so sweet and innocent.
It's that thing, isn't it? That they always say that kids don't come with the biases that we've sometimes grown up and developed over time because of external influences. And this kid's just willing to be, so accepting. It's so lovely.
I love that kids can ask really awkward questions that you just wouldn't get away with as an adult, right? But they just do it so innocently. And the compliment in there of, why do you have a girl voice when you're so handsome?
Kids can either be really perceptive and they can get away with it because they're really sweet, or they don't give no fucks and they'll just come up to you and be like, are you a boy or a girl?
I think that we should allow them to ask questions because it's coming from a place of curiosity, and how else will they learn?
Much kinder about their questions than that kid at Pride, that's for sure.
I think it's worse when they ask if you're a boy or a girl and then they say, no, you're definitely a boy or you're definitely a girl. No, darling, we're nuns, non-binary.
You're having none of this. The next story. Once upon a time, I transitioned in grad school, and the department secretary happened to have a college-age daughter who was getting rid of old clothes. When I started transporting,
I told my gender it had to move out. It's like, it's not working for us anymore. Get your shit, get going. Transport it out of my life. I promised you typos.
You did. You delivered. You transported me to hilarity. When I started transitioning, she would offer them to me because she knew I needed a new wardrobe. Every couple of weeks or so, I'd look in my department mailbox and I'd find a new hat, cardigan, top, or bracelet I could wear in there. And it made my day when that happened.
So sweet. Really thoughtful, actually.
It just shows those small acts of human kindness really do have such profound impacts on people. And doing something as simple as, oh, we're getting rid of a few things, would you like that? And just accepting that person's identity as they've told you.
I think also people underestimate like the sheer costs of being trans. If you are transitioning and you're having to get like a whole new wardrobe, it costs a lot of money, surprising amount of money. And so having just that small act of kindness actually has a huge impact on someone's life, particularly when you consider that this person's a student. So, you know, they wouldn't have a lot of money anyway. Does
Yeah, it makes a world of difference.
that mean you're ready for another story?
I am indeed.
Hey, get our reading glasses on. Our next story is short and sweet. Says, when I was a newborn, the hospital gave little hats to keep the babies' heads warm. They would use pink ones for the girls and blue ones for the boys.
Yay! Fucking gender binary hats.
Unsurprisingly, perhaps.
Mm.
Hospital, though, ran out of the blue ones. And so this person got a pink one. And ironically, this turned out to be the correct hat anyway. It just took 21 years to figure it out.
Yay! Lovely that, ironically, that was the correct one. That's a very sweet story to have.
I don't know what the point of the pink and the blue hats is. Like, it's not for identification purposes because babies have like a little medical bracelet around their wrists. So what's the point? Why not just give them all yellow hats?
Somebody must be making these, so like surely you could just order a bunch of hats and whatever material they've got the colour of is what you get. So some babies will get a green hat at some point, there might be a purple, a yellow, an orange.
I think it bothers me so much because it's literally guesswork. Like, there are lots of different things that can indicate the sex of someone, and all they're doing is looking at one characteristic out of all the possible ones and making a best guess. No one's getting their chromosomes tested when they're born. Like, that doesn't happen. No one's actually checking the internal organs. Again, it doesn't happen. It's a guess. It's a guess. It does bother me the way that children are immediately gendered at birth.
Gender binary can fuck off. When I was a kid, my brother and I used to play with two kids from the neighbourhood, a brother and a sister. A whole lot. I don't know why I'm emphasising it like that, but I'm sticking with it. One thing we used to do around the holidays was do a holiday-themed skit to perform for the adults at my family's annual Christmas party.
This is really sad, but it sounds like the kind of thing I would have done as a kid.
I think most of my annual Christmas parties, you just left the kids to cause havoc in another room.
We would just go away and create a thing, and they're like, right, everybody has to watch while we perform our masterpiece.
Thespians from a young age.
Where did my life go wrong?
When I came out as an adult, the sister got really excited and had us go for mani-pedis together and even did my makeup for the annual Christmas party. As it turns out, she actually worked for the LGBT centre at her university and was well familiar with trans experience. So she jumped at the opportunity to help someone she knew from childhood.
So sweet.
Around this time, she remarked that, now that I think about it, the fact that you never objected and you always seemed a little excited when we used to make you play Cindy Lou makes a lot more sense now. I basically responded, I cross-dressed a lot for those skits and often volunteered to do so. You're just now figuring out that something might have been off about that? You should have seen the look on her face as the realisation hit her.
It's so funny how it can be there all along and you just never quite click.
Yeah, that's really funny that it's one of those examples that it's been there the whole time and it takes those moments of egg cracking for people to go, ah.
I think it's funny how you can know from such an early age and not know at the same time. And then it's only when you look back at your childhood, you're like, oh, this all makes sense now.
For a lot of us, we grew up in times where there weren't words for it. It wasn't talked about. And so you really were thinking, is this a thing? But not having a word for it. And then it takes you 10, 20 years or longer just to go, this is the thing.
It warms my heart so much to see generations younger than me knowing themselves more and being able to explain and to have that language, that knowledge. Like, it's really nice to see that it has improved, and I'm so happy for them.
Obviously, setbacks aside, and it's all depending on local context, but it has gotten better to the point where younger generations are that open and that informed, and the hope being that that continues to be the case, and that push for more equality until, you know, you have that true equality for everyone to just be themselves.
Things can only get better. It had bloody better. Are we ready for another beautiful, splendiferous story? I don't know what splendiferous is. A story of wonder and joy.
Well, I was born ready.
This one says, I came out to my family roughly 2 years before I actually came out to everyone else. At the time, neither my mom nor dad were used to the idea of me being trans yet, and both would still use my dead name and male pronouns a lot. And I still mostly presented as male around them. My dad didn't like to address the subject much, but he didn't actively say transphobic stuff. My mom was willing to address it, but she'd often say stuff like, "This is weird," whenever addressing me in girl mode. It could have easily been worse, but I still felt that my parents didn't really accept me as a girl.
Oh boy, this is a fun start to the story. Yay, supportive parents, right?
On the first Christmas after coming out to them, I go to open my presents by the tree, and I get a lot of typical things for Christmas at that time, including books, a men's sweater, men's socks, etc. I felt really upset as I was worried that getting all the boy clothes meant my parents didn't want to accept me as a girl. That is until I went into my room and I found an additional present lying on the bed from mom and dad.
Attention.
It was a makeup kit. I cried because it showed my parents really did care and support me, even if it was still hard for them to address it directly. Fast forward 3 years, my mom actively picked out a dress for me to wear to our annual Christmas party so that we could be wearing matching mother-daughter dresses.
Woo! Oh God, that was a tense start to the story. I was thinking one of us had missed the assignment for joyous stories there.
It started a little bit, my heart was in my mouth, but it all turned out good. It just goes to show that when people really love you, even if it's something that's hard for them, they don't know or understand the trans experience, if they love you, they will still make the effort. It might take them longer, but eventually they would get there. That's what good parents should be. They keep trying until they get it right.
I do appreciate that it can be difficult for parents to adjust, etc. Obviously, the caveat is, imagine how difficult that can be for the person having to come out to the world almost repeatedly.
That little ray of hope is exactly what they needed, a sign that their parents were trying, that there was hope, and that there were positive things ahead. I'm glad that they got there.
It was really rewarding to hear that, given time, they did make the effort of acknowledging the child's actual identity, and then that grows from there.
I love that they ended up with matching dresses at the end.
So I'm just thinking about it, and it is a little weird to like male socks, male sweater, very sort of focused one way, and then to have that other one almost, that is a little bit of a whiplash for the child.
A little bit. It's like they couldn't be open with it, that they couldn't display it in front of everyone else. Because when they say it's a Christmas family party, we don't know which family members are there. But then, like, behind the closed door in privacy, here's the present, shows that actually we are trying to accept you as you want to be accepted.
Personally, I know that there are ways that could have been done better. Whether that's giving the present at the beginning, having words with the child and saying, we're going to be in open family space, this won't happen. But But I'm aware family dynamics are unique to every family, and I'm not gonna tarnish this person's happiness. They've obviously got joy, and the experience overall worked for them, and that is the main thing.
I feel like some communication maybe would have made that situation a bit easier for the trans person. They did say that they'd come out to some people, but not others. So it's possible that that's the reason that things weren't done more openly. But just a bit of communication to say, hey, child of mine, I know that you don't want to be open with this yet, and we respect that. So we will continue as normal, but just know that there's your other presence that you'll get later. When we've got privacy, just something you could communicate it a bit more.
Whenever we complain, there's always like three solutions, and one of them always seems to be better communication between people. Why is that such a hard thing for a lot of people to do?
Honest, open communication would solve so many things. Damn humans and their emotions.
Let's have our final story of the day. And on a happy note, just like we've ended on a happy note 8 other times. When I first came out, I went out to meet some friends, and one of them had his 5-year-old daughter with him. She's seen me before in boy mode, but she was staring at me in girl mode, very confused. Finally, she asks, "Why is he dressed as a lady?" Perfectly innocently curious. Her father, to his credit, tried to explain, well, she is a lady, but sometimes people can change their genders and she's going to be a girl. After a few minutes of silence, she pipes up from the back seat. "You can't be a girl."
That's it, the child said. We're gonna have to change back there.
Her father starts to object,
Thank goodness he's at least standing up for his friends.
but she continues, "You're a grown-up, so you can't be a girl. You'll be a woman."
She's smart.
She caught us out, didn't she? Yes, very matter-of-factly, like she'd figured out the solution to the puzzle. A bit later, she even hit me with this unprompted advice. If you're going to be a lady, you should work on your voice. It doesn't sound very ladylike.
Just say it like it is, why don't you?
This kid is an assassin.
She's totally on board with it. She's like, oh, yeah, okay, I mean, you can't be a girl, but you can be a woman. But you're going to have to work on it a bit.
Like, I know, kid, I've got the assignment. You don't need to berate me. Another lovely story of how kids are much more perceptive and a lot more knowledgeable than people give them credit for, where people talk about it being, oh, it's complex issues that will confuse kids, when actually kids got it in one.
It really does show it's not that complicated. It's once you get older and you've got all of this baggage of all your other beliefs and feelings and experiences, and you project that onto what you're seeing in the world. But really, it doesn't have to be that lot.
If a 5-year-old can do it perfectly well, even if they're a little bit brutal on their feedback, if a 5-year-old can do it, anyone can do it. It's that simple.
Well, those were some absolutely delightful trans stories, and all of them with a happy ending.
Oh God, is that kind of show that we're running a happy ending? Oh.
We're safe that we're only nuns.
Well, we'll stuff you full of nonsense.
Nuntastic.
Yeah, I think all these stories have been really lovely and also just really showing the simplest of actions can be really life-changing for people. And it really, really isn't a lot to ask for people to just be accepting and supportive.
Kindness costs nothing. And if you do nothing else, just be kind.
Pretty much.
Well, I'm afraid that's all we've got for you today, folks. However, if you are interested in more nonsense, we have another deep dive episode coming out next month on the 1st of the month. Now tell us, Babushka, what will we be talking about
Next time, Alaska, we've decided to get on this everyone else is on. be using AI technology.
That's right. Many videos that you noticed float around on is talking about AI. So we decided we would get action and ask AI to write a script full of nonsense, which we shall be delivering to you on the 1st of December.
Oh, nice. Let's see how good the robots are.
Will they be genius? Will it give us a whole lot of information? Who knows? You'll have to turn up next time to find out.
To make sure that you catch the next deep dive, as well as the little tidbits of nonsense we put out every week, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel for all things nonsensical.
I feel like there's something that we're missing. How do we normally end these episodes?
We didn't do nothing? Was that it? No.
There was a thing that happened.
Oh, there was a thing that was done.
But who did it?
We did it.
We did the thing.
We did the thing.
We did the thing. We did the thing. We did the thing. We did the thing. We did the thing.